What's the dumbest thing you ever got in trouble for at school? We were reading a Shakespeare play in HS English at a private school. The teacher asked if anyone knew what a line meant, where a character is talking about a pen as if it were a D. When she asked, whole class said D and I said wang. I got to detention for using inappropriate language because I didn't use the clinical term. Not quite school, but a school function. I almost got kicked out of prom for being drunk, simply because I didn't want to dance. I was sitting at the table watching everyone else's stuff and 3 staff members dragged me outside to ask me how much I had to drink that day. Meanwhile there's girls who obviously had been drinking on the dance floor not being bothered. My dad had a you can't stay home sick from school unless you're extremely sick, mainly because he worked from home and didn't like being bothered. So unless I had a fever of over 103 and or was throwing up, my ass went to school. And to be honest, until I got my driver's license I had nothing to do otherwise. So I had very little reason to skip. So one day my freshman year in high school, I'm sick. I can't eat because I'm queasy, but I haven't thrown up at all, and I didn't have a fever. So off to school I go. I get to 3rd class and I realize that I'm going to toss my cookies. I'm in the middle of science class and we're supposed to be doing some quiet activity sheet. So I raise my hand to ask to use the bathroom. The teacher is a hardest and says that I should have gone during break between class. I said to her, no really I'm about to vomit. She infers that I'm lying and that I need to get back to work on my sheet. So I walked up to her, handed her the completed activity sheet, and threw up on her lap. She calls security and tells them I intentionally assaulted her with vomit. I was suspended for 2 days and my parents had to threaten legal action against the school district to get the suspension reversed. Turns out I had the norovirus. Was sick and asked to go to the bathroom. Teacher Rich said no. I vomited in her trash can. She tried to get me expelled. I can still hear my dad laughing in the principal's office. In primary school we weren't allowed to talk during lunch. Go ducking figure why, but people who did had to go stand in the corner until the others were finished. I had to go too. In the same year I learned to write. I got in trouble for showing my teacher I could write upside down while not looking. I was super proud of it for some reason, but I guess I was not taking my writing seriously. I've got 2 things. 1. I sang happy birthday with a whole bunch of my friends to someone at lunch and we were to split up because it was inappropriate. 2. Someone kicked my chair and I fell and I got a detention while they didn't get anything. One time in primary school, I went into school with a weird pain in my side. It felt like a muscle stitch, so I didn't think much of it, assuming it would get better after a few minutes or so. Flash forward about an hour, and we're all sat in assembly. I'm almost doubled over in pain cause it hurts to breathe, and some kid next to me keeps talking to me. As I try and tell him to stop, I get singled out by the teacher for disturbing the assembly and so I have to stand up, almost in tears from the pain, and walk out of the assembly to sit outside while everyone watches. Flash forward about another 30 minutes and I'm lying on the floor of the headmistress's office, waiting for an ambulance to come and pick me up so I can be taken to hospital and later diagnosed with swine flu. I was a mouthy little it at school, but I also had some arsehole teachers. One would often start his classes off with stories about his day-to-day life, normally pretty chauvinistic in nature. One fateful day he started with the words so. On the way to work I passed a really ugly woman, to which I chipped in was it your wife, sir? The teacher flipped, screamed at me to leave his classroom, and threatened a world of pain if we crossed paths again during that week. I went to the library for an hour and kept my head down for a fortnight, just to be sure. My mate was meant to get into trouble over something I did. I told the teacher I did it. She extended his for some reason. I never got one for it. I got yelled at for not saying good morning back to another teacher. I was in pre-K and my teacher took our class to the bathroom. It's important to note that every door looked exactly the same and I was 3 or 4. I was getting some water and when I looked up my entire class had just walked off without me. So I toddled down the hall and opened the door I thought was my class. Spoiler, it wasn't. The teacher of that class gave me back to my teacher and I got put in timeout. Yes, I got put in timeout because my teacher left me at the bathroom. Got a week's worth of detention once because someone spread a rumor that another girl and I were having sex in the bathroom between classes. Teacher whose class I'd supposedly left backed me up that I hadn't left class while I was supposedly getting it on. As far as anyone knew, I was straight. I didn't really know the girl I'd allegedly hooked up with. What I actually got detention for was telling the principal that I didn't think it was any of his ducking business when he started asking about my sexual history. We had to sculpt a clay bust, then glaze and fire it. I made mine a black man. I had to go explain to the principal why I made mine black and a letter went home. I'm white. No black kids went to the school. This was 5th grade. I have no idea why it was an issue and neither did my family. In 2nd grade I got yelled at by my teacher for helping a kid who didn't understand the lesson after he was done speaking. The kid had already asked for help and he ignored him and I was already done, so I decided to help him, then got punished and yelled at for doing so. The cameras caught me poking holes in the back of a school bus seat on the same day my mother got a call from the school saying I had missed too many days of school while sick, which was received because I missed that day. Long story short, I shared the seat with a goody two shoes kid and they just automatically pushed the blame on me because I was a bit of a brat. When I was like 6, there was a broken gutter on the playground leaking rainwater and my friend and I thought we looked cool with damp brushed back hair and absolutely soaked our heads under it. We got yelled at cause we'll catch a cold, but they made us go stand at the wall still outside for the rest of lunch. Yak now. Instead of sending us to dry our hair. I was in 4th grade and a big crack of lighting came down right outside the window and I screamed. Like really screamed. I got sent to the principal because apparently that wasn't a mature reaction and got detention. I got a letter sent home and yelled at and humiliated in front of the entire class because I climbed on top of a pile of snow. Plagiarism. I didn't use the correct MLA format 2 years before we learned about it and was chewed out as if I had claimed I wrote the Magna Carta. Fighting. A tiny kid tried to punch me and I held him at arm's length by the shoulder like a cartoon so he couldn't connect. In front of everybody. I've told this story before, but a friend of mine got yelled at for missing class to get scheduled chemo treatments. He died a few months later. Back when I was in HS, my school banned salt, so I literally had to smuggle salt to breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Kids were also selling it. It was ridiculous. I never got in trouble, but others did. I went to boarding school for your information. One time I got sent to the nurse for farting twice in math class. This was in 7th grade. Classmate tickled me for a few seconds and I fell off the chair pretty badly, but I made a huge noise by falling and my teacher didn't like that. So she wrote the note to my parents about how much I was inappropriate during class. Apologize for any mistakes. Got a detention for putting my stuff in my locker. Teacher thought I entered the school early, but nope, my locker was literally right inside the front door so I could drop my stuff off as soon as I walked in. Pretty much everyone else's locker was past where she was standing as a hall monitor. Even when I showed her where my locker was. Still got the detention. Protested to the principal and was told to suck it up and serve the detention. Gave a lot fewer ducks after that day and got more detentions for other dumb it. I got written up for putting my bookmark between my glasses and my face during silent reading time in 3rd grade. When I was in grade 5 we did a We Are the World lip sync for the Christmas concert. Yes, this was a long time ago. I volunteered to be Kenny Rogers. I really wanted to be Kenny Rogers for some reason. No one else volunteered so I got what I wanted. I was asked by the teacher to also play Paul Simon as we didn't have enough people, so some people had to play 2 roles. My mom had made me a Kenny Rogers outfit and had makeup ready. A day before the concert the teacher said that Anna Pyle wouldn't be in the concert unless she was Kenny Rogers. I got in trouble because I threw a fit and said that wasn't fair. I should get to choose which part I gave up. I had to be Paul Simon. No costume as he just looks like a normal dude. No cool beard makeup. Duck you Anna piles of it. I started school left-handed. That was bad. I felt like the worst person in the world all through kindergarten and first grade because I kept messing up using my left hand to write, eat, act. I had in recess detention at least twice a week for it. This was also back in the late 80s when it was acceptable for teachers to hit children. Duck you Mrs. D. I hope the devil diddles you daily with his left hand covered in barbed wire when you're rotting in hell. We weren't allowed to run or play games on the play structures. One time we got in trouble for playing hide and seek and they made us go play it in the field. We only had one tree so it was a pretty itty game of hide and seek. Wearing a black undershirt. We had a dress code at my school where you had to wear a collared shirt. They didn't really care about the color or the design much except you couldn't have really big words or logos on them. One day I actually got written up because I had on a black shirt underneath my collared shirt. The dean that wrote me up really hated me so of course it was a really obscure rule that no one really cared about. But he liked to get me in trouble for whatever dress code violation he could. I got in trouble so much that I actually got voted most likely to be out of dress code my senior year. I dropped a pencil during a test. Teacher got mad when I picked it up, it being within my reach, and I was suspended for the day. We would get class posters in school. Same pictures that would end up in your yearbook photos. They came in these little cardboard tubes and also had a rubber band around it. As I was taking off the rubber band, I accidentally let go of it and it flung across the classroom. Instant Saturday school detention for flicking rubber bands at students. In high school we lost a rivalry football game badly and most of the guys I knew in the team and a few coaches were cunts. So I wore the other school's colors clothing the following day. One of the cuntiest coaches of the team was one of the pay teachers and he flies across the hall to me and goes, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I like teams that win." So he made me walk with him to the principal's office while berating me the entire way. The principal and vice principal were like, "Dude, we both used to work over at that school and he's not breaking any dress code. You have 2 seconds to release him back to class or you're going on immediate suspension etc etc." I loved taking pay every following semester because I was now untouchable from that douche. In 4th grade I went to go pee. There were 2 or 3, I don't exactly remember, other girls in there being complete idiots. They were yelling and being obnoxious. They were by the sinks. All I wanted to do was wash my hands. But then the teacher sent another girl down to see where they were, since they had been gone for a long time. We all got sent to the principal even though I wasn't even doing anything. It was my first time being sent to the principal so I thought I was gonna die. I hope I'm not too late for this and it gets buried because I have a good one. In middle school they gave us assigned seats at lunch for a while because they wanted to see if it was any table in particular that kept ducking stuff up in the cafeteria. On the upside we got to pick our seats originally and got to sit by our friends. The downside was if you weren't walking to your seat or sitting in your seat or getting food and you were found not in your seat you got a week of detention. So one day we go to our table and this big kid with anger issues is sitting at our table. He wasn't supposed to be there. We asked him to get up and he just roared at us. So when he got up to get food we just took the seat back. Well, when he comes back he pulls up a chair and joins us again. They also had a rule where if more than 6 people were at a table the whole table got detention for a week. So we were freaking out trying to get him to leave but he just roared again. He goes up to get more food and we weren't sure what to do so we just hid the chair under the table because we didn't know where it came from. Dude comes back and instead of getting another chair or yelling at us he instead decides to jump on the table and keep jumping screaming "fat ass" on the table over and over again. So teachers and security come over and instead of taking care of the kid jumping on the table they instead decide to yell at us for having a chair underneath the table. We all got in trouble but no one questioned the kid that broke the lunch table. In 8th grade, my best friend was dating this really itty guy. At lunch one day he got mad at her over something stupid and backed her up against the wall. He raised his fist like he was going to punch her. I was angry and didn't know what to do to stop him. So I poured some of my soda down the back of his shirt. It maybe wasn't the smartest thing, but I did it before I even considered what I was doing or what might happen next. Predictably, he turned on me. That's when a teacher finally showed up. I got sent to the office, lectures, and written up for the soda. I explained what happened. But since the teacher didn't see any of it, I was the only one who got in trouble. Whatever. I wasn't going to just stand there. And I had no idea how far away help might be. I forged my mother's signature on a write-up slip at school in 3rd grade. In my own handwriting, and I spelled her name wrong. Having shirt untucked. Big thing at private schools. However, in high school ended up at a super hardcore religious school where the teachers were just complete assbags. They thought they were drill sergeants at basic. One particular douche nozzle would literally walk along the benches at lunchtime, trying to see if your shirt was untucked. Yeah, even at lunch sitting in the bench you could get in trouble for it. One person got expelled. I went over the student handbook and found sweaters with the school logo could be worn year around. So when confronted about my shirt being untucked, I pulled the sweater out of my bag and put it on. I was like, now you don't know it's untucked, you can't see it. He turned red, ready to scream, and I said, go ahead, try to remove my sweater, see where that gets you. I'll hit you and get you arrested. I got sent to the head monk who acted as principal. Again, super religious school, so monk holy guys ran everything. And he said I was in the right and nothing could happen. 3/4 of the school suddenly wore sweaters every day and openly boasted about not having shirts tucked in or even on. Couple teachers still tried to be decent, turn up the heat real high in their rooms, but we endured. When I was in elementary school, I drew 2 stick figure dudes with swords in their hands. No gore, no blood, just 2 stick figures with swords. My teacher saw my drawing, and my mom was called by the school. They brought her in for a beating and explained how I was prone to violence and the drawing would be put on my permanent record. I can see how the school wanted to help me if I was indeed showing signs of something serious. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure a lot of normal kids like to draw little stick figures. Librarians were selling muffins in the library to help raise funds for band. I bought a poppy seed muffin and took it to a table and started to eat it. A teacher walked up to me, unaware that library staff were selling muffins, and told me that I was rude to be eating a muffin in the library. She told me to get out, and when I pointed out that the staff had been selling the muffins, she got angry for pointing that out to her. She asked for my name, and I gave her a fake one. After that, I left the library and went outside to eat the rest of my muffin. Later that day, I was called into the principal's office and my behavior was questioned. Apparently, someone heard me give a fake name and told that teacher my real name. I explained to the principal what happened and he agreed that nothing was done wrong. But I still got detention for giving a fake name, and to please that teacher's search for justice, I was forced to apologize to her. Coughing. We were in a line, supposed to be quiet, but I coughed, and they thought I was faking it. Number 2 is probably when I entered the class as the bell was ringing, and the teacher wasn't even ready yet. When I was in grade 4 or 5, a few other girls and I'm a girl, played werewolves at recess. One of the girls put a death threat note in my locker, claiming to be one of the wolves. We had imaginary wolves in our wolf community and we had the wolves we played. The note had fake blood and everything. Detailed paragraphs of how the wolf was going to eat me and drink my blood. There were like 2 or 3 pages stapled together and cut out photos of black wolves that came out of my locker as I opened it. I showed my teacher and she thought it was me. The note was written on Word, with the chiller font, and I didn't even have a working printer. The word got around and my whole grade thought I did it to myself because I wanted people to feel sorry for me or give me attention. The principal had a long talk with me about lying and he eventually called my mom. She told him that I was a liar at home, like every 9-year-old was, and not to believe me. My other friends got notes too except one girl, but it was apparently still me that did it. For some reason, he didn't come to the realization that it was the girl who didn't get the note. Years later we did. Disabled student kept talking to me and the teacher told me to shut up. Junior in high school, in science class, and we needed to glue things together. Elmer's had clear glue instead of the traditional white. I wondered if it tasted the same as white glue that I had eaten when I was younger. Had a conversation with some friends about it and naturally tasted it. Teacher noticed me squirting it in my mouth and sent me to office. The assistant principal read the note for the referral stating I was eating paste, laughed and gave me 3 detentions. And to satisfy curiosity, it does taste the same, semicolon. Hitting the space bar with the wrong thumb during typing class. 1. Not having my glasses. When I was in grade 2, I had 2 pairs of glasses. I lost the one that I had, and my teacher said she couldn't find the one that she had. Anyway, I went to order a new pair. At school my teacher kicked me out of class until I had my new glasses. Because, and I quote, "You can't concentrate in class without your glasses." I have no idea how that makes. Anyway, my grandmother came to school 2 days later with the camera and the phone of the local newspaper. I was brought back in class pretty quick after that. 2. Breathing with my mouth open. I was born with something obstructing my nasal cavity, and now I have breath through my mouth. She demanded my mother asks the doctor for proof of my surgery. I needed a nasal surgery, which I had at 7. She got angry at me and called me a liar. When I told her the doctor refused, she hated me because I'm of English origin. I got into an argument with the daughter of an important guy. I think he was on the school's board of directors or some crap like that. She went to the headmaster and falsely accused me of threatening to hit her, and the headmaster talked to me in his office later. He very bluntly told me he knew I was innocent and that I was like the 10th person that same girl had accused of the same thing just that month. She does that all the time. I know she is lying, but I would be in trouble with her father if I didn't punish you. Don't worry, I'll give you a small token punishment, he said. Said punishment was being held back in detention after classes every day for like 2 weeks, but being allowed to go as soon as the other kids were gone. So I wouldn't actually have to spend hours in detention while making a spectacle of my punishment for the douchebag daughter to feel satisfied. If I lived near the school or had someone to drive me home, I'd have arrived home 10 minutes later than usual, so it would have been fine. But I had to take the bus, and those 10 minutes made me miss it every day, forcing me to wait 1 hour for the next one. So the fake punishment did turn into a real one because I did have to spend an additional hour at school every day just to placate that hoe. I was a really behaved kid, so one day we're all waiting for class to start and I'm reading a book. A sub goes and stands in front of the class and immediately throws me under the bus and says they won't take my disrespect for reading when they're starting class. My class was like, WTF, you just yelled at the mute. And this is dumb on my part, but I skipped class with a friend and we were getting McDonald's. These girls had our teacher on speed dial and ratted us out immediately. I was given detention. Still wonder how they ratted us out without repercussion when they were also at that McDonald's. I got in trouble for sleeping. Though it wasn't sleeping that got me in trouble. The history teacher woke me up and asked me a question he thought I didn't know. When I answered correctly, he sent me to the principal's office. The same teacher ended up entering me into a geography B without my knowledge, so I had no time to study for it and ended up coming in first place. In middle school, after school, I was waiting to get picked up outside. It was raining and instead of standing under an overhang, I was standing in the rain. I got detention for that. Also, same middle school, someone threw a ball at me to try and hit me and an aide told me to go pick the ball up. I told her no because it was thrown at me. Detention. I had a decent sized afro in high school. I would often just stick my hair pick in my hair rather than put it in my pocket or something. But the assistant principal always gave me it for it. I wasn't punished for having it as long as it wasn't in my hair. So it obviously wasn't considered a weapon. It sure as it wasn't a hat. So I never knew why he was on my ass about it. Kinda long, but whatevs. In high school, my ex-boyfriend and I had broken up and he was pulling that whole "I'm gonna kill myself if we don't get back together" bullet over text. It got worse and more descriptive, and my dad suggested I show and tell the counselor so he, my ex, could get some help. Me, being me, did so. Now, I hadn't replied to those texts in bad ways. I had simply said we aren't getting back together and he needs help. Yada yada yada. He did, and pretty sure still does have some mental health issues, which I hope he's gotten help for. Anyways, counselor and principal read it all and I somehow got in trouble for us exploiting his personal problems and he should also get help on his own. They didn't do anything and or talk to him about it, but I did get detention and Saturday school for a week. In high school, I would bring a little one-use bottle of mouthwash to school to use after lunch. One day my stomach was hurting and I felt really nauseous. So I went to the nurse. I had to take off my hoodie. So I emptied the pockets and she saw the empty bottle of mouthwash and immediately started asking me questions about drinking alcohol. I explained to her that I didn't like my breath to stink after lunch for my girlfriend, but she wasn't having it. She went and told the vice principal that I was drinking at school and got sent home. I'm pretty sure I was going to get suspended, but I think my mom talked them out of it when she came to pick me up because I had never got caught doing anything wrong in school before. TLDR got sent home from school for trying to keep my breath fresh with mouthwash after lunch because they thought I was getting drunk.